Hey, this is John Young here with the Disc Jockey News. Today we're going to look at just a little bit on one of the things you're going to hear a lot about here with this whole COVID situation is the phases involved with reopening up the world. And I want to talk about how that affects us as mobile entertainers specifically. This is coming from, well, let me just pull the page up. This is coming from a document in which you're going to be hearing an awful lot about from this particular group and such. This is from the National, this is the document called the National Coronavirus Response, a Roadmap to Reopening. This was produced by let me come down here, this group, this team, American Enterprise Institute is what it was produced for. This particular document is being referred to very heavily on the different phases, and you're going to hear more discussion about that. So I spent some time digging into this, listening to and talking about this with other people to get an idea of what this could mean for us, and I've got a few things highlighted, so we're going to jump into that. What this basically is a document, there's 4 phases that they refer to in this situation of reopening the United States or the world or any place for that matter after the coronavirus. If you find this document, they've got a really nice little executive summary right at the beginning here that you can go and you can actually read through, and they talk about the different things. The phases are, phase 1 is basically to try to get a handle on what's going on. I'll just come down here to the phase 1. Slow the spread is what phase 1 is there. You can see it on the right side there. That's what we're in right now. Now, some places are going to be at a point in time moving to phase 2, which is the state-by-state reopening. We are not there yet at any place in the United States yet because they've got some guidelines. And these guidelines are what some of our politicians and such are referring to before they're going to open up. They were going to be looking at things like this. And this is one of the most reputable ones out there right now. So, in phase 2, during phase 2, one is trying to get a handle on it and stop the spread. 2 is the schools and different things are going to start to reopen, and there's some indicators that we're going to look at in such with that. Then in phase 3, wherever phase 3 was here over on the side, there we go. Establishing immune protection and lift the physical distancing, and then phase 4 is basically then build up the infrastructure so when or if this happens again, we will be ready. In other words, we're all going to go and buy 5 gallons of hand sanitizer. We're going to have toilet paper up to a closet full of toilet paper, and we're going to buy rubbing alcohol and face masks. Anyway, so let's look at this a little bit. Phase 1 is the slow the spread here, and on the goals of it are slowing the transmission of the things and the test. This is what we're in right now. And really the part I wanted to go and focus on is what it takes to move from phase 1 to phase 2. And I've got that highlighted here. This is all a breakdown in depth of this. So these are the things that they're recommending are triggers to move from phase 1, which we're in right now, to phase 2. So we're wanting to have a sustained reduction in cases for at least 14 days. What that means is that you hear them talk about the increase and then the plateauing and then the coming down off that. They want to be able to see that we're coming on the downward side of that crest, and we're going to be getting to the point now. We're not going to be completely out of the woods, but now we're starting to see fewer cases and fewer deaths coming from this, and the spread is starting to slow down. That has to be sustained 14 days. So basically having a down day, and an up day, not sustained downward trend. So that's what they're going to be looking for. Then the hospitals have to have the ability to treat everyone who's having the problems. That's going to be a big one because they need to make sure that if for some reason things open up and then you get a group of people, 1,000 people that were whatever, that all of a sudden are sick, can they handle that? So they need to make sure that the hospitals are good to go with that without having to go into a crisis mode and building tents, hospitals out in the backyard. The state must be able to test the people. So the tests have to be out there. That means they're going to be able to have to test if they have it, or if for some people they're going to be testing to see if they're immune to it because they've already had it and didn't know they had it. The confirmed cases and such. So those are going to be a big factor, especially that downward cycle for 14 days. Some people have talked about needing to see that for that, okay, we're going to go and then we need to see 14 days at like half capacity of what we were at the peak. There's going to be a variety of different things, but the idea is that even once we've started to come down, it's going to be needing to see a trend there. So let's go into phase 2. Let's talk about that just a little bit. Phase 2 is where businesses can start to reopening. People should be continuing to do some of their distance work if they possibly can. And here's the big one, that this is the one that's going to affect DJs. Right in the middle of this first paragraph, they should be continuing to limit gatherings of people to 50 or fewer. This means that our events, our weddings, our school dances, anything, schools may open, some businesses may open, because the top line, I couldn't highlight the very top line of this paragraph. Schools and universities would reopen. But we have to be looking at small events. So we may have school that's going to open in the fall, but we may not be able to have a school dance, is what I'm seeing if they're going to follow these guidelines until we get into phase 3. So phase 2, where we've got some kind of handle on it and people aren't getting sick as fast, and we're able to, the sickness is going to slowly spread its way through instead of all of a sudden becoming this epidemic in one particular area. 50 people, this is going to be big. You will hear this referred to an awful lot as we go forward. If this is phase 2 is held to, this could be major for us. And then we continue down a little bit. Oops, I got to go to the right page so I can scroll. And then for older adults, those over 60 that have those health issues and such, they're talking about that during phase 2, they would still recommend for them not to be too limiting their exposure to the community, because they are going to still be at risk. So there's going to be some social distancing things that are going to be reduced during phase 2, and there's going to be some things that are going to be kind of held in place with especially older adults. Let's scroll down to talk about moving from phase 2 to phase 3, because this is really, really the big thing here. Is moving from phase 2 to phase 3 requires one big thing, and that's called a vaccine. The vaccine has to be out there available so that people can be getting immunized from this, so that then we end up having that herd immunity to this, where most of the people are immune because they've taken it. Some people are immune because they had it. Some people who can't take the two, there hopefully is enough people not carrying it so that they won't get sick. That's what we're going to be getting to. But this is phase 3. When phase 3 is basically the point where things start to open up completely and we're getting back to life as we know it. In order to do that, it needs the vaccine. When is that vaccine going to be ready? You hear people saying, oh, it could be ready in 6 months. And all experts that really know what they're talking about seem to be thinking, let me back up. All experts who don't have any money in the game, there's little businesses that are trying to get their name out there as we can make a vaccine in 3 weeks. No, you can't. It can't be done. It can be done on paper maybe, or a computer simulation, but to actually create something, test it, and make sure it's safe is going to take that 9 to 12 to 18 months. So what I'm saying with this is that we may be in phase 2 starting sometime. We maybe June. I doubt May, but maybe June. June or July, we'll move into phase 2. Schools could be back in session by fall if we don't have another flare up, because there are some things in phase 2 that say, hey, if this happens, we need to move back to phase 1. Phase 2 could be a real thing in the fall, but we're not going to be probably having sporting events. We're not going to be having our dances and such. We get into phase 2. We're there for a year. I think is a safe number to say that we could be in phase 2 for a year with those 50 events, and then we move to phase 3 with the vaccine. Once the vaccine has been distributed and such, then we'll be able to open things up and get back to the real world. How long it takes to be able to mass produce and then to mass distribute, if let's say it takes a year to get the stuff out there and then they're mass producing it, it might take another 6 months to be to the point where we're out of phase 2 and into phase 3 safely, where we start to pull things back. Then I'm just going to, right here it talks about the once it's safely and efficiently, they can move to when the vaccine's there, we move to phase 3. To moving to phase 3, this is all the vaccine talk about it. I wanted to just, once this is distributed, or the vaccines, and then they move into phase 4, is to rebuild the readiness and such. And that's going to be something personal, and that's really not going to relate to too much of us as DJs, except we need to have the products we need for our families to be safe and such. A few of those you don't have to hoard, obviously. But then we need to be looking at the financial and number sides, how we can protect ourselves, because unfortunately, these things have happened every few years. And if things continue at this trend, we may have more of this just as the population in the world goes the direction it goes. So to summarize, right now we're in phase 1 of it, and you're going to hear everyone's talking about phase 1. Phase 2 sounds like it's a better step, and it is, but the two things in this is that it could take a year in phase 2 till we get to phase 3. And then phase 2, they're recommending as of right now, groups of no more than 50, which again, school can open, you can have your classrooms and such, some of that might go on, but I'm really concerned as mobile entertainers if we are going to be seeing them allowing events of any size during that phase 2. And when we get into phase 3 when things are going to be immunizations and things are going to open up, we'll be in good shape. But we may not see phase 3 hit or be there until mid to sometime in 2021, whether that's early, mid, or first, second, or third quarter. I don't know. I'm assuming by fourth quarter of 2021, we should be certainly in phase 3 or ending phase 3 as we're getting ready to go into phase 4, which is just life in general. So anyway, just wanted to give you a little bit of a run through of this. You're going to be hearing more information about this. Don't freak out. Just be aware that this is what they're talking about, what they're looking at, and prepare yourself and prepare your business to be able to function with these new rules and regulations that we may be under for the next year, 12 to 16 months. This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.